Hello, everybody, and welcome on in to an AFC Championship Game preview edition of the Patriots Roundtable Podcast. Alongside Tyler Geis, I am Eddie Murata, and boy, we could not be more excited to be back on here this week, previewing yet another Patriots postseason game. Tyler, they found a way to get it done against the Houston Texans. The Patriots win 28-16 and are yet again still dancing in the NFL postseason. Divisional round weekend is always my favorite weekend of the entire season. And boy, did it not disappoint yet again this year from start to finish, all the way from Denver to the Patriots game to even a fantastic second game in the snow on Sunday in Chicago. We got a little bit of everything this weekend. And now all that remains are four. And the Patriots in the 2025 NFL season, 23-year-old quarterback, first-year head coach, they're one of the final four. Tyler, how are we feeling going into AFC Championship Game week here?
We are back. We are so there was a numerous signs at Gillette Stadium with people with no shirt on. We are so back, and they are so back. That felt, I got nostalgic about, like, I think divisional or conference championship games against the Colts in the snow back in like 2003. A lot of people were comparing that kind of Texans matchup to that because the Colts were coming in very high powered in that game, and the Patriots just put the moves on them. I've said it the last 3 episodes of this show. No one thought we'd be here. As the playoffs started to unravel, I was like, AFC Championship. I think it just feels right. AFC Championship game, at least for now. And here we are. Look, offensively, Drake Maye did not have a great game, and Drake Maye admitted that. Drake Maye's got to protect the ball. The defense did exactly what you and I spoke about on this show last week. Give CJ Stroud a hard time, and they gave CJ Stroud a really hard time. We can touch on that a little bit later on. But Drake Maye, in those pockets of struggles against the Texans' high-powered defense, made some remarkable plays. I think I mentioned last week they should go for it on 4th down. What do? On 4th and 2, Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels basically told the Texans defense, we are not afraid of you. And they hit Pop Douglas for the game's first touchdown. Just incredible stuff. The Kayshon booty catch. I know we'll get to that in a little bit too. I have so much to talk about. I hope I get my words right on this show. But just to sum up your question, we are happy and we are back.
We are all the way back now. It is official, and boy, it could not come at a much better time for this team, a more surprising time for this team after winning a combined 8 games the last 2 years. The Patriots now sit at a whopping 16-3 on the 2025 NFL season. And this was a game this past weekend, just to start kind of diving in. We'll go into the numbers, but storyline wise, right? It was very similar to one of those classic AFC Divisional or AFC Championship games that was hosted at Gillette Stadium back in the early portion of the Patriots dynasty in the early 2000s. You brought up that 2003 AFC Championship game against the Indianapolis Colts, and it was 21 years to the day that the Patriots turned over Peyton Manning and that high-powered Colts offense 5 times. They go out and turn over the Houston Texans 5 times on Sunday in the snow. We are so back. You're absolutely right.
Parallels. Vrabel played in that game. Like, a lot of parallels right there.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of want to start there too, because I think that, we've talked a lot about the identity of this football team, especially in the latter stages of the year, going into the postseason. And I think early on, as everybody started to realize, like, this team was for real, they're going to be good, the season started to wear on, there were a lot of, and I think very natural comparisons to that 2001 team. but I was extremely resistant to go there myself for so long, just because this is such a different team. Aside from your guys like Vrabel and McDaniels, there's nobody here that was a part of that team anymore. And it identity-wise looked very different on the football field as well. It was a Drake Maye-led team. They went as he went. It was the passing game that was really the catalyst for the Patriots' success during the regular season. And the defense had their woes up until week 17 or week 18 of the season. They were dead last in the NFL, 32 out of 32 overall in the red zone, giving up touchdowns on over 70% of offensive drives. And it felt like they were going to have some problems in the postseason. That could be their fatal flaw if you got them move the ball down the field and they couldn't stop anybody in the red zone, right? If they needed to come up with a stop at a key critical situation in one of these games of this magnitude, they were going to have some problems. And that dial just completely reversed all the way around as we got into the playoffs. That defense is now the identity of this football team. 2 postseason games in, and they have been the headliner of both of them, bar none. They've been all over opposing quarterbacks, making life difficult from the time the ball is snapped. And it's really been the offense that has taken a back seat, but an opportunistic, resilient offense that has played against some of the league's best defenses. And while they haven't been extremely impressive the entire game, they've picked their spots in opportune moments to put points on the board, to put games out of reach, and have done more than enough to be sitting right here getting ready for the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. That's what they needed to do. All game long, they were going to struggle offensively. Drake Maye was not going to have a perfect game at all, but I want to say per quarter, they had like 1 or 2 good drives. I mean, the interceptions on CJ Stroud, I think one of them turned into, did any of them besides the pick six turn into actual points? I don't even know. That's just a testament to how good the Texans defense is. And, I know this is a Patriots show, but if I'm the Texans front office and I'm looking at CJ Stroud this offseason, who's going to want an extension, I don't know. If you're thinking about benching your quarterback in a playoff game, that says a lot. And, I think the Patriots really exploited that. I mean, this team has only in 2 playoff games has allowed 1 touchdown. 1 touchdown. Everything else has been field goals. They've kept both the Chargers and the Texans out of the end zones, with the exception of maybe 1 drive in that game on Sunday. They have a lot of momentum going into Denver for reasons even beyond how they're playing right now. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a second. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to start right there too, because this is certainly going to be part of the plan moving forward. What we've seen through 2 games in the postseason, the Patriots defense had CJ Stroud so rattled that it was a legitimate conversation on national television at halftime of that game. Do they go to Davis Mills for the second half? And the kind of ramifications that has on a franchise as a whole, 2 years removed from CJ Stroud winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, that was an absolutely shut down, incredible, violent performance. And that's the key word here that Vrabel's continued to go back to for the identity of this defense over the course of the season. I think we saw glimpses of it in the regular season. I always think back to that first half against the New York Giants in prime time right at the beginning of December there as one of those like violent identity games. But we've seen 2 full 60-minute performances of just that in the playoffs. And when you look at the numbers, it has been absolutely jaw-dropping. In the wild card round, the Patriots blitzed on 45.5% of their overall defensive snaps. Now, I think that we thought there was a chance that would happen again. I didn't think there was a chance that number would actually go up this past weekend, and it did. The Patriots blitzed CJ Stroud on 46.2% of his dropbacks. They pressured him on 48% of his dropbacks. When he was pressured, he went 8 of 23. All right. 8 of 23 against pressure looks, 89 yards. That's 3.9 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. and a passer rating of just 25.5. They absolutely lived in the backfield. It led to many of those turnovers, and it led to, even when they weren't there and they weren't around him, he felt it, and it was visible. It was visible on the field. It was visible on the sideline. He looked shaken when he was over there between series. Like, he just could not come up with any answers for what the Patriots were presenting him defensively. You go back and watch the film, it was just as impressive. They're running just about everything you could possibly imagine. 2 high safeties, 1 high safety. They're bringing the nickel. They're bringing linebackers. They're rotating coverage all around, all over the field. It was a constantly changing picture for Stroud in this game, and one that he wasn't really able to nail down at any point in time. That was the most impressive thing in this game, I think, was probably the defensive play calling. So huge shout out there to Zach Kerr, who's had a lot on his plate over the course of the season. You know, that's been one of these underrated storylines that if the Patriots were losing, we would probably be talking a lot about, is they haven't had their defensive coordinator all year with Terrell Williams and the health concerns that he's had going on. But it has been an absolute non-factor in a lot of these games, a non-story. We shouldn't just gloss over that when they have success, though, because Vrabel, Zach Kerr, they've got these guys ready to play. And Tyler, it leads me to another, I think, big question that we have to answer now as we move ahead in postseason play. All of the attention has been on the opposing defenses that New England's facing, and rightfully so. In the regular season, it's now going to be 3 of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. That's the Patriots' path offensively to a Super Bowl so far. Nobody's talking about this Patriots defense as being one of those units. And I think it's about damn time that we start putting some respect on their name here, because they have been flying to the ball just about as good or better than anybody in the league. So right now, at the end of January, entering AFC Championship Game weekend, Tyler, is the Patriots defense the best defense in the NFL?
I know you threw a lot of statistics out there, numbers. I don't know where they rank amongst the remaining teams. I know, or the teams that they've even beaten. Well, I mean, they are behind. Statistically, the Chargers and the Texans did have bet. Well, the Texans, obviously. But I don't think they're going to get the credit they deserve unless they're hoisting the Lombardi Trophy in a few weeks. Statistically, I don't think they're going to get the credit they deserve long-term looking back on this season. But I think guys like you and me are going to look at this and go, this is a solid defense. And I feel like if you know ball, and if you know like what makes a good defense, you have to tip your hat to this crew. Having Milton Williams back has been insanely great. Having Barrymore out there has been insanely great. Christian Gonzalez, I mean, thank God he's still around. I love he's the second coming of a Ty Law or something, who I believe was the keeper of the light at that game. I think that's who it was, at Gillette Stadium. I might be wrong about that, but this is in the Patriots also for a while, and you kind of didn't really see that much in the last 5 years in the rebuild. They have had a family of, and Vrabel's part of this, of linebacking core. And we're kind of seeing that start to develop now again. And it's nice to see that this team's kind of coming together defensively, because they know they have to complement a young QB who's very good, but as great as Drake Maye is, as the fact that, heck, he could still win the MVP. He's still young, and he still has some kinks to work out, and he still is going to get some notes every week, and he's going to probably accept them because he handles himself really well in a press conference when he's getting questions about his fumbles in the game. So the defense needs to be there. If it doesn't get the credit it deserves this season, let's just watch and see how the next 2-3 years go and how that defense really grows. And we might be here in a couple seasons talking about the Patriots having the number 1 defense in the league, maybe even by next season. They deserve a lot of respect. But I think they're right up there against, like, Seattle just stunned me. We'll get into them, before the end of the show too. If it's Seattle and New England again in a couple weeks, that's going to be an interesting matchup of defenses as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, either way you chop it up, it's probably going to, if the Patriots advance, it's going to be a rematch one way or another between the the Seahawks and the Rams. So, and both very good defensive units in their own right as well. I think units that have both over the course of the season gotten a lot more praise than this Patriots defense has. I just think that it's not even going back through the 2 postseason games. When I look at it, it's that fourth quarter in Baltimore. That's when the switch really flipped for these guys. You're down 11, you come back in that game to win, some huge defensive stops. You're able to continue that into the Jets game, into the Dolphins game, and everybody was talking about, okay, yeah, well, that's the Jets and the Dolphins. They don't have any quarterbacks, but that's when the red zone defense really started to switch. And now you're looking through 2 postseason games at a team over the course of their last 4 games that has only allowed 2 touchdowns on 11 trips into the red zone. We talked about that number being at 70% earlier in the year. How about 18% now through the last 4 games of the season, including against 2 playoff teams in the Chargers and in the Texans? Yeah, they might not get the credit they deserve unless they, ultimately go on to win the whole damn thing. But this is a unit that absolutely deserves a lot more praise than they've gotten and has really in the playoffs become the backbone of this team. It is no longer that Drake Maye led attack on both sides of the ball. It's a defense first approach with an offense that has a guy that plays at an MVP level at quarterback. And that can be a very dangerous thing for a championship identity for a team. We talked about last week, maybe defense, does it win championships anymore? Does it? Doesn't it? I think that with the way that this Patriots defense is playing, this is absolutely a unit right now that you can ride all the way to a Super Bowl. And they're going to be doing that this upcoming week against Denver. So before we get quite there, we do have some offense to talk about, just kind of unpacking things from that Houston game. We'll do our all 22 review, and then we'll flip the page over a little bit to preview that upcoming Broncos AFC Championship game. But we talked a lot about the defense. Tyler, let's flip over now to the offensive side of the football. And we knew that this was going to be another difficult matchup for a young offense in New England. It proved to be just that, very up and down over the course of the game, similar to what we saw from the Patriots in that Chargers game in the wild card round. A lot of parallels between those 2 performances in both of the Patriots' playoff victories. But again, it was the resilience by that offense to kind of take their lumps, roll with the punches. They had a couple of turnovers again, strip sacks. The offensive line definitely struggled, but when you needed Drake Maye and that Patriots offense to perform at the end of the game and put it out of reach, they did just that. Your overall impressions on the offense in this Houston Texans win?
Exactly what I expected it to be. It was going to be a frustrating watch. You kind of knew that out of the gate. But like I said at the top of the show, going for it on 4th and 2 and getting a touchdown is Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel's way of going to that defense saying, you guys are good, but we're not afraid of you. And you're on our home field. It's going to be snowing later. So get ready, because we're going to still step up in your face and try and throw the ball. I thought there was a lot more diversity in who Maye could throw to. I know Diggs didn't have a big game catch-wise, but he got a touchdown. Pop Douglas, who we talked about last week, we were hoping to maybe see a resurgence of him. He got the game's first touchdown and made a big impact. And Hunter Henry was there when Maye needed him a lot. And Ramondre Stevenson, who, a few weeks ago, I did a great article about, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I did an article about, Stevenson's kind of redemption tour in the back half of the season after having so many fumbles, and how if this was a Belichick coach team, he'd probably be playing in Cleveland by now. But Mike Vrabel kept him around and coached him back to kind of normalcy. And now he's like the second coming of Danny Woodhead or something. Just kind of this. Maybe if he's not going to run the ball up the middle, he can kind of play slot receiver sometimes. He's a good kind of safety net for Maye, and we saw a little bit of that, but we didn't see a lot of one thing and a lot of other things kind of spread out all over the field, which, it still sounds like a good thing, but I think that's one thing they had to harp on and be able to get the ball out to different people because of just how good the Texans defense is. And then, once the score gets 21-16 and, you could kind of sense a shift, oh no, is this one going to get stolen from us? This has already been a crazy weekend of divisional round football. How is this going to end? Well, it turns out it ended with an incredible Kayshon Boutte catch, going against one of the best cornerbacks in the game with a Stingley Jr. there. I mean, Boutte catches that one-handed in the snow at like the peak of when the snow's coming down. So the field is slippery to begin with. That's not an easy thing to do to begin with. There's so many variables there for him not to catch the ball. And I mean, I'm sure Drake Maye's thinking like, they're playing man coverage here. Like the worst that's going to happen probably is he's not going to catch it. So he ends up catching it and pretty much sealing the game right there at the top of the fourth quarter. So I still was impressed, and I knew what I was going to get out of this Patriots offense. Nothing too crazy, just pockets of opportunity for them to capitalize on.
Yeah, and I love that turn of phrase that you used too, the pockets of opportunity, and that's really what it felt like. And we knew that that was going to kind of be the name of the game going in for this offense against the number one rated defense in the NFL. You kind of knew what you were going to get from them, but they were extremely efficient and talented in playing in the scheme that they specialized in. That's exactly what we saw on Sunday, and it was extremely hit or miss for the Patriots offense, but it was about when those hits took place. And you look at the 3 offensive touchdown drives, first and foremost, only the second team in the entire NFL this season to put up 3 passing touchdowns on that Texans defense. So there's another check mark for Drake Maye.
Yeah.
On those 3 passing touchdown drives, he went 10 of 10 for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers. It was everything around that was highly questionable. The pass protection, the strip sacks. Again, ball security becomes now kind of a common theme here through 2 postseason games for Maye and the offensive line. I think that they kind of go hand in hand with each other here. But it was when those opportunities presented themselves and when they were able to take advantage of those, they did, right? And it was the first 4th down of the game. And something that you had called on this podcast last week is, hey, don't be surprised to see if the Patriots get aggressive early in this game and try and set the tone and tell that Texans defense, we're not afraid of you guys, and go out and go for it on 4th down. And it was the second offensive possession of the game. They go 3 and out, their first trip down the field. They get the ball back. Things were going good. They were backed up in 3rd and 14. They get 13 yards on 3rd down, sets them up right near the line to gain for that 4th and 1. All out pressure by the Texans. Drake hits that little slant route over the middle of the field. He had Pop Douglas on a safety there, and that's a matchup that you really like Pop Douglas in any time of the game. Puts it right where it needs to be, and Pop goes all the way with it. That second drive, you were talking about those quick hitters, the slant passes, right? It was 2 consecutive slants, and then that skinny post in the end zone to Diggs where he just goes up with extremely strong hands on that play to pull that in. And I think that gets lost when we talk about that big Boutte play later in the game that we're definitely going to show again. But that Diggs catch was just absolutely incredible in its own right. And I think that we got a few plays out of this game that, depending on how this season wraps up for the Patriots, they could live in Patriots lore. That Kayshon Boutte catch could be up there as one of those like all-time great Patriots postseason receptions there ever were in the 4th quarter of that game to make it 2 possessions and kind of put it out of reach. But I think it also even goes all the way back to the drives that they didn't score on. I think one of the most impactful drives in this entire game was you get the ball back with 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and you're pinned back inside your own 5-yard line trying to hold on to that 2-possession lead. And you had seen some of the struggles that they had in those situations, both earlier in the game and going a couple of weeks back with the pass protection down near their own goal line. And to be able to now all of a sudden breathe new life into the running game that had struggled to really sustain any momentum through that point in the game. And now all of a sudden you're running over the right side 8 times out of the 10 plays on that drive and moving the ball all the way out to midfield, burning 6 minutes of time off the clock, literally cutting the clock in half on that drive is what really put this one away and didn't give Houston the amount of time that they needed to mount any potential comeback that they were looking to make in that game. Now, you can argue that Stroud definitely wasn't in a position down 12, 6 minutes left in the game to go out there and do anything with that anyways at that point, but that is really what put this one away. And it started with, in the 4th quarter, this offense returning to yet another one of these signature plays for Drake Maye. You talked about that booty bomb over the top of Derek Stingley. We're going to take a look at that now here for our all 22 review this week. Back here for another edition of the all 22 review in the postseason. And yet again, in the fourth quarter of a postseason game, we're taking a look at a Drake Maye touchdown pass that put the playoff win out of reach. This time, a signature shot down the right sideline to Kayshon Boutte over Derek Stingley for a 32-yard touchdown that really sealed the victory for the Patriots. We've become accustomed to seeing Boutte and Maye hook up on throws just like this, and this one specifically was reminiscent of the first touchdown pass of Drake Maye's career. But let's take a look at what makes this work. And really most of this for the Patriots is Maye operating pre-snap. You already saw him here move Ramondre Stevenson up toward the line of scrimmage, and that is to match any potential pressure coming here from what we call this double mug here from the A gap right over the center. You have the two linebackers that are walked up, and this is actually all the way on the corner over here. Will Anderson, that's basically lined up over Hunter Henry, even though he's coming around the edge to rush. Now, what the Texans do here that kind of tips off what they're playing is they walk their safety down to line up over Hunter Henry here, giving this man-to-man look on the outside. Now, Henry actually isn't a part of the passing pattern. He's going to chip down on Anderson here to help Will Campbell give the Patriots a little bit of extra time to throw. You see the two linebackers drop out into coverage. This is a man-to-man look all across the board, single high safety over the top with that other safety rotating down to cover Hunter Henry right here. So once again, you see these two linebackers are going to drop out into coverage. Ramondre moves up here. He's going to release into the passing pattern because there's nobody for him to block there. And on the outside, Boutte does a great job of stacking Stingley, getting that outside release and fading toward the corner of the end zone. Maye just perfect on this as well. All he has to do here is just kind of look this way to hold that middle field safety. So he's kind of playing over here instead of tracking back toward the ball the other way. Excellent job by Maye here, and we've started to become accustomed to him being able to hit throws just like that. All right, so the Patriots advance to the AFC Championship game, and we got yet another one of those signature Drake Maye sideline shots down the field to Kayshon Boutte in this game. Tyler, one more little tidbit on this one that I want to add in. Derek Stingley, of course, one of the best corners in the NFL since the beginning of the 2024 season. He's only given up 4 20-plus yard receptions. Now 2 of those coming at the hands of Drake Maye and Kayshon Boutte. That connection, that first touchdown pass last year of Drake Maye's career coming against the Texans on the same exact passing concept there, a little bit further back on that one. It was a 40-yard touchdown pass. This was a 32-yard touchdown pass. Same end zone, same side of the field. This was like they waited for the perfect moment in time to go back to that single high safety. They got the exact look that they were looking for. We, again, talked about that last week. When you get those single high safety looks on the outside, you should be hopefully confident enough to take shots at your guys down the field, and the Patriots certainly were in this game. The efficiency wasn't there all the time for 60 minutes, but they were definitely trying to make a deliberate effort to push the ball down the field, and at the most critical moment in the game, were successful in doing so.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. That is, I think, like you said before you played the clip, that no matter what happens for the rest of the season, that might get framed somewhere in the halls of Gillette Stadium. Because I think there's some old clips somewhere of Robert Kraft showing people around the stadium, and there's this framed photo of I think it's Ben Watson in a divisional game against the Broncos, oddly, back in like 05, who chased down a fumble recover that almost got hit for an end. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Champ Bailey or something, who almost returned it for a touchdown, but Ben Watson knocked him out of stopped the touchdown from happening. So there's a ton of plays on the wall framed somewhere, but I think Booty's catch is going to go down. That's going to be something. That is something maybe that might evolve in Boston sports history. And going against one of the best cornerbacks in the game in harsh weather conditions, on a drive that maybe if they didn't get anything going, the Texans had another shot that could end up with them taking the lead. Very pivotal point in the game when that happened. And I'm very happy it happened. So yeah, because now we're in the championship game.
That's right. Yeah, because that happened, now we have more football to cover moving forward. And that starts with the Patriots trying to do something that they've never done in their franchise's history in order to make it to Super Bowl 60, and that is win a postseason game at Mile High. Through all of the Brady years, the Belichick years, they were never able to get over this hump in Denver. Certainly some different circumstances leading into this game than those previous games. Vrabel likes to categorize things under, are they important or are they interesting? I think that, that one is probably more under the interesting category there, but it could be a real factor in this game when you go up and you play in the altitude and you're trying to go up against a defense that is yet again another one of these top 5 rated units. We're going to talk about what happens with the Patriots offense, again, trying to gain some consistent footing in the playoffs still through 2 games when they go up against that Broncos defense. But we're going to start with the headliner going into this game, which is actually on the Broncos offensive side of the ball. When that Patriots defense is on the field, they won't be seeing quarterback Bo Nix, who went out of the game late against the Bills in the divisional round. He actually didn't even exit the game. We didn't figure out until afterwards that he had suffered a fractured ankle that is going to require him to miss the remainder of the season. So in steps Jarrett Stidham, former 4th-round pick by the New England Patriots in 2019, spent 2 years in New England. Also spent a year with Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas when they both moved on in 2021. A lot of familiarity here with Stidham. It sounds like the Patriots even did some work on him this past offseason as a potential Maye backup before they settled on Josh Dobbs. Stidham decided to go back to Denver to be the backup for Bo Nix there yet again this year. And now he steps in the AFC Championship game, facing off against yet again this Patriots defense that is about as hot as anybody in the league. So let's break that down a little bit here, Tyler. What are we expecting to see when Jarrett Stidham takes the field against this Patriots defense on Sunday?
Hopefully what we saw against the Texans. Hopefully they are still aggressive, still in their face. They're facing another quarter. Well, we don't know. Okay, Jarrett Stidham, I shouldn't jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead. Yes, Jarrett Stidham has kind of really been a glorified backup for pretty much all of his career, for the most part. But he's learned behind Tom Brady, and now he's learned under Sean Payton's system. And, you could argue he learned under Josh McDaniels, and I know McDaniels in Las Vegas, it wasn't really the greatest thing in the world, probably, but, he's had probably some good people around him that can aid in his success. But I think I watched a clip today of it was the 2019 season. I think they were playing the Jets and they had like a 23-point lead, and they took Brady out and put Stidham in. He threw a pick 6, and then Brady went back in the game, and it was like Patriot fan pages poking fun at who they're going to be up against this Sunday. But we don't know. Like, Sean Payton's a great coach. Sean Payton has been to the promised land. He has won a Super Bowl before, and past that, he's knocked on the door of winning a few more in the past when he was in New Orleans. He's been in a conference championship game before. He's not afraid, and he proved that in his press conference, pretty much showing everybody that he has a lot of confidence in Stidham. So I don't want to go into this thinking like, we're facing a backup quarterback. That's it. We're going on, because the Broncos defense can very much still make this a game. I hope there's nothing too controversial not too many controversial calls going on in Denver like there were on Saturday night. But it's a hard thing to wrap my head around that the Patriots are in this situation. And I think I'm quoting you a little bit because you texted me Saturday after the game. You're like, I cannot believe if we go to the AFC title game, we have to play Jarrett Stidham. But they could have something in play. And I don't know what it is, if they're conservative in the first half, or if they get, I don't know. Like, I'm at a loss for words. I just don't want to get ahead of myself. But I am just happy we're not playing Bo Nix, because I know I've said on this show I don't trust Bo Nix. But maybe I kind of got to eat my words here, because maybe I just haven't watched a lot of Broncos football since maybe the first half of the season, because Bo Nix hung in there. That whole game, he really played a great game Saturday night, going up against, you knew he was probably going to be in a shootout with Josh Allen, and he pretty much was. The Bills with a rally late, and then how that game ended is how that game ended. But that's for another podcast on a different network. But back to what you were saying, I don't want to go off the rails here. I can already sense it because I'm just excited. I don't want to think Stidham is just gonna go out there and suck, because we don't know that. There's got to be something in play. This is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, there are a lot of unknowns going into this game, and it would be extremely easy for us to get very far ahead of ourselves here in saying that Jarrett Stidham is the first quarterback since Roger Staubach in 1972 to start his first game of the season this late in the year in the conference championship round. There are so many unknowns here. What we do know is that Jarrett Stidham has a fantastic head coach, an offensive-minded head coach in Sean Payton that is going to scheme things up around him to take some pressure off of him. We know that Jarrett Stidham has been in this system now for 2+ years. This isn't somebody that they're picking up off the side of the road and Phillip Rivers come in and save the day at the end of the season here for us. This is a guy that has been around. He knows exactly what he's running in that offense for multiple years now. And this is a very different situation for the Patriots defense in the fact that they're actually playing one of the league's best offensive lines this week too. And I think that's a major factor in a game like this, because all the pressure statistics that we gave, all the blitzing statistics that we gave about the Patriots against the Chargers and against the Houston Texans came against some of the league's worst offensive lines. And you can look at that two ways. You could say, great, they're generating pressure at a much higher rate. They lead the NFL in the postseason, the Patriots do, with 72 pressures now on the quarterback. They have to send additional rushers to get there. They weren't, even against these poor offensive lines, really able to generate pressure with their front four alone. They needed these additional rushers in to try and make the quarterback uncomfortable. And it remains to be seen, are they going to be able to do that against this Denver Broncos team that has one of the highest rated offensive lines league-wide now? That is a strong foundation around Bo Nix, around Jarrett Stidham as they're replacing Bo Nix for this game. One thing that I would add that I'm extremely interested to see as we go into this game, though, that's an added wrinkle this week as the week progresses, is the Broncos also just opened the practice window up for J.K. Dobbins to return from what we thought was going to be a season-ending foot injury that he suffered in Week 10. And that's kind of been Dobbins's career arc so far, as he's extremely efficient. He's a fantastic runner. And then at some point in the season, he suffers a season-ending injury, and he's out for the rest of the year. And that really hurt the Broncos offense in the latter half of the regular season, where Dobbins averaged over 5 yards per carry for them in 10 games. That number's all the way down to 3.5 right now. They're middle of the pack overall, but especially later in the season, they're a bottom third team in running the football. And that's one of those things that you absolutely need to get right if you do have a backup quarterback coming in, to alleviate some of the pressure off of him having to carry the weight of the entire offense again in a game of this magnitude. So if Dobbins is out there, and it's not just RJ Harvey, who is a versatile back in his own right. He's been a great pass catcher out of the backfield in Denver for them this season, but is like Travion Henderson, really struggled with his efficiency as a rusher between the tackles. Dobbins could be a huge storyline for that Denver offense in terms of staying on schedule and not putting Bo Nix so far behind the chains where he has to drop back like CJ Stroud did 47 times in that last game. The Houston Texans weren't able to run the ball last week at all, 22 carries for 48 yards total. That now makes it, in 2 games, 60 yards off of 30 carries by opposing running backs. And I think that's a subplot to monitor here on the Patriots defensive side of the football, has been their return to their early season form, taking away the run. They started the year with 8 consecutive games holding opponent running backs under 50 yards. And they went through a stretch later in the season from November 13th on where they didn't have each of Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, or Harold Landry playing in the games together. Just as they started to get into the postseason, those guys came back, and we saw that efficiency ramp right up again in these past 2 games. So that could be a hidden subplot, is how are the Patriots able to generate pressure on these quarterbacks, and how are they going to be able to do so against a Broncos offensive line that's much better? It's going to start by taking away the run again and putting them into these 2nd and long and 3rd and long situations where that offense is dropping back to pass, even if they don't want to, and they don't want to tip their hand, and they're going to do all kind of fancy crap with Sean Payton to try and make it look like they're going one way when they're going the other way, because we know he's going to pull out some tricks in a game like this. You know what they're going to do. Conceptually, they're going to be pushing the ball down the field, and that's going to allow you to continue to pin your ears back and have that 45+% blitz rate and pressure rate continue in a game like this. Any other notes on that Broncos offense?
I just, the only thing I really got is I think I just harp on it enough. Sean Payton definitely has a game plan. We're not going to know anything about it until game time. Payton versus Vrabel. I think I said this back in the Harbaugh-Vrabel matchup. I think this is just going to be a coaching chess match between Vrabel, who's a little more defensive leaning, and we have an offensive mind on the opposite side of the field. It's going to be a coaching chess match. They're both very meticulous guys who want to just break apart a team. This is the game. This is the game I'm a little more excited for than the other one. Not being biased, but it's the Patriots who are not good at Mile High, no matter what. But it's a new era too. Tom Brady's 0-4 there. I don't care what Nick Foles wants to tweet out about backup quarterbacks in the postseason against the Patriots. So I think this is a new era, and I think they'll be fine. But I'm not going to say my pick too early yet. So
yeah, we got one more side of the ball to preview, and I think that this is really where this game could be won or lost for the Patriots. And that's when that Denver Broncos defense is on the field. They're a unit that schematically, I think, presents a lot of challenges for the Patriots. We've talked about their overall rankings as being another one of these top 5 defenses in the league. If Drake Maye wants to get to Super Bowl 60, he's going to have to do something that no quarterback in NFL history has ever done before, and that's beat 3 of the top 5 NFL defenses over the course of the regular season in the same postseason to get there. Denver ranked number 2 overall, where Houston ranked number 1. So if you want to say, oh, yay, we got past the best defense we're going to play in this entire postseason run, the one coming up on the heels of it isn't too far behind that Houston defense. But I think that there are some opportunities for the Patriots offense to succeed at a little bit more consistent a rate than we've seen them succeed in matchups against the Chargers and against the Texans so far in the playoffs. Now, Vance Joseph plays a primarily man-to-man scheme on the back end. We've seen a lot of zone defenses so far in the postseason that have liked to sprinkle in some more man coverage just based on what the Patriots have struggled against through this point of the season. But I think that we've seen Drake and that offense show marked improvement week over week over week against those man coverage looks, knowing and expecting that they're going to see a lot more of those Drake last week was 8 of 12 for 106 yards, and all 3 touchdowns came against man-to-man coverage. And again, that was a tendency breaker for that Texans defense that ran over 70% of their snaps in zone coverages during the season. They're looking at a defense that now plays about 60 to 65% of their plays on a per week basis in man-to-man coverage and loves to blitz. This is a blitz heavy scheme. Unlike that Texans defense, they got pressure with their front four. Denver relies and does a phenomenal job at it. They're ranked number 1 in the league in sacks. They're ranked number 1 or 2 in the league, just barely in pressure rate. They get home at the quarterback. They have a couple of fantastic edge rushers in Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper that are going to give Will Campbell, Morgan Moses, and that offensive line fits yet again. But they get home a little bit of a different way. And I think that presents opportunities for the Patriots here in this game. Drake Maye was the best rated passer in the NFL against the blitz this year. He threw 12 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and posted a quarterback rating of 116 through this point of the season against the blitz. You're going to be vacating zones on the back end in favor of bringing additional rushers at Drake. He has shown an incredible ability to find where his hot reads are on those kind of plays and get the ball out very quickly, as opposed to dropping back in that zone coverage. Everybody's got eyes on the underneath throws, and they're able to ball hawk to those aggressively. I think you saw them struggle against the Texans trying to solve those types of coverages aside from those deep shots. So again, schematically, this may be a little bit of a challenge just based on the fact that the Broncos really like to run a lot of the coverages that have given the Patriots some struggles this season. But because of how aggressive they are with the blitz, I think that's going to open up some one-on-one opportunities for these Patriots receivers. And as they continue proving in a week in, week out fashion here, they're coming down with those plays for Drake Maye more often than not in snaps like that booty 32-yard touchdown grab, in snaps like that Stephon Diggs touchdown earlier in the game. When there are contested catch opportunities, these wide receivers have been absolutely phenomenal for Drake Maye this year, and they're going to get a lot more of those one-on-one chances this weekend against a Denver team that specializes in man coverage. Tyler, your thoughts on this Broncos defense?
I want to start with saying this could be the game where Maye kind of, if he is going to be a league MVP, he maybe locks it in here. You talk about the red zone defense. The Broncos are, I think, first or second in allowing touchdowns inside the 20-yard line. There's always the Pats offense really combats a lot of these great stats by the Broncos. And that's one that always just stuck out to me, is how good 2 weeks ago we were kind of, towards the Miami game, we were kind of like, okay, they're switching things up in the red zone. They've struggled in the red zone rather than having Maye just dish it out deep. You kind of saw a lot of trick plays at the tail end of the season to get in the end zone, inside the 15 or even the 10. And I think we're going to see a lot of plays come down to that. I don't think there's going to be any big breakout deep threats for a touchdown. I think Maye, with this defense, obviously with the blitzes, Will Campbell's going to have another tough day ahead of him. But I don't think he did a necessarily bad job on Saturday. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I think he'll probably have a slightly better game against this pass rush. But in terms of like deep threats, I can see Maye still dishing it out across the field for 20 plus, but I'd say the scoring really happens in the red zone because, just to go harp back on, my old Vrabel wanting to stick it to a tough defense, or Mike Vrabel sticking it to a tough defense like he did this week, just proving we're not afraid of you. If we come down in the red zone, we will have something in our back pocket against your defense that's so highly ranked. So I think the battle is going to be won inside the 20-yard line. I respect this Broncos defense. The Texans defense scared me a little more. I know statistically it kind of goes back and forth between the two, but I think there's even more pockets of opportunity for Maye to probably still have kind of a mid-game, but if he can get through this one and get over the hump, that's 3 great defenses between the wild card game and the Super Bowl. Come on, voters. Come on, MVP voters. I don't know. But I have a lot I have a lot more confidence. He's got to have a lot more confidence. He's got to know what he's got to do better going against this defense on the road, especially. So, yeah.
Yeah, a couple more matchups from me, little things and some keys to victory here before we move on to picking these games, because I know we're all anxiously awaiting that portion of the show. This Denver Broncos defense, while it is highly rated, I think benefited from what the Patriots benefited from in the course of the regular season. What was the biggest nitpick by all these prognosticators about the Patriots and why they were a fake team and it's fool's gold and all these things that you had to say about the Patriots all season long was about their strength of schedule, right? And the Broncos played just as bad of a strength of schedule as the Patriots, and a lot of those highly rated defensive performances. Let me just walk you through this a little bit. Their highest rated defensive game per PFF this year was against the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 18 with Trey Lance at quarterback. Their second highest rated was against the New York Jets. Their third highest rated was against the Cincinnati Bengals with Jake Browning at quarterback, not even Joe Flacco at quarterback. Then you go to the Kansas City Chiefs with their third string quarterback in the game in Week 17. Tennessee, Week 1. The Raiders, Week 10. And the Houston Texans in Week 9 when CJ Stroud exited with a concussion in the first quarter of that game. So you're looking at 7 of their top 10 best games all coming against backup quarterbacks, third string quarterbacks. Situations like the Patriots defense are about to face this weekend, right? So when you're looking at just playoff teams, this Denver Broncos team averaged giving up just about 24 points per game, which is just middle of the pack like any other defense that you would expect to see in the NFL. And we saw that on display last week. Even though they won the game, they gave up over 400 yards to that Buffalo Bills team, and they were really able to establish a ground game. They were able to work in some play action. So I expect to see the Patriots be a little bit more methodical, kind of getting back to what you were saying earlier. You don't expect a lot of these one-on-one shots down the field, and that would really track through the numbers too. Buffalo was 0 of 9 on 20-plus yard passes last week, but it didn't really affect their ability to consistently move the ball down the field. They ran it well, especially to the outsides where you have guys like Riley Moss and Pat Surtain, who are great cover corners, but have an extremely high percentage of missed tackles on the season. You're stressing those smaller bodies in the run game with a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who's an absolute bowling ball on the perimeter. None of these corners are going to want to tackle a guy like that. This is going to be a game where, unlike last week, where I think you saw the Patriots try to establish the run, they tried to do those little screen passes and things to take some pressure off of Maye early on. They just got stuffed every single time. And this Broncos defense, statistically, number 1 against the run in the league. But I think that's more the interior runs. This is a team now with the Patriots that they've had some struggles trying to establish that outside running game, and they've kind of gone away from it for a while. And I think that was in part to kind of take it off of tape. We're working on this in the background. We haven't been great at this, but there's going to be a time to pull it back out. I think that's this week. This could be that week where you see one of those big, maybe Travion Henderson isn't the most efficient runner between the tackles, 12 carries, 25 yards last week. This could be one of those games where he gets all of his production off of one really big home run play in a game like this where they're able to stress putting those corners in tackling positions on the outside. That'll set up play action for this New England Patriots offense that has been hyper aggressive and really efficient on the play action game this year. When you look at Drake Maye's splits, he is one of the best quarterbacks. And you can really look at his splits through anything this year. He ranks as like one of the first or second best quarterback in the league. And that's why we've continued to talk about him as being the MVP of the league. But you want to put him in those shorter down and distances against a team that likes to bring as much pressure as the Texans. Kind of the same thing as looking at that Patriots defense. You're trying to avoid those long yardage situations. You need to support him with a better running game. You need to take care of the football a lot better. I think that's a big thing here against one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. Nick Bonito especially generated pressure on 20% of his defensive snaps this season, which was the highest mark in the NFL for players not named Micah Parsons this season. So just like kind of a frame of reference there for you. he's going to be coming after Will Campbell the entire game. This is not like a Houston Texans team where they're going to rotate Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter around into different matchups. Cooper and Benito both have their sides of the field. They took all of their snaps over the left or right side last week. So Will Campbell's going to definitely have his hands full for him yet again this week. He doesn't look 100% to me. I know he's coming back from that MCL, but he definitely looks a step slow, and that's going to be something to monitor. But as we talked about for the Broncos in terms of getting people back and what that could do for them with J.K. Dobbins in their running game, I think just the same is true for this New England Patriots team that is now eligible to receive a big boost in their passing game in Mack Hollins, who is eligible to return from injured reserve this week. It sounds like they expect him to be back on the field this Sunday. And again, when you look at a team that likes to run a lot of man-to-man coverages, he's become that kind of when the play breaks down, he's always on the field for the Patriots because he's in those two wide receiver sets when they're running the ball. He's worked in as an inline blocker on running plays, so he's on the field a lot. And Maye really trusts a guy like Mack Hollins with such a wide catch radius. It feels like it doesn't matter where you put it for Hollins, he's going to come down with it. So I think against a team that specializes in man coverage, definitely going to be a key in this one, getting Mack Hollins back and working him back into that offense to take a little bit of pressure off of Maye and the passing game. All right, we're going to move now into our game picks. And Tyler, let's stay right here. Last week, we kind of went around the league a little bit and picked all the other games first. We're going to go right at this Patriots game first here. We only got 2 to pick this week. So who do we have winning and advancing to Super Bowl 60 out of this Patriots-Broncos matchup?
Oh, I hate how you make me go first. So for anybody who's been following along with the show, you probably see I have a very scruffy beard. And the reason is I get superstitious. Eddie, however, has a very nicely trimmed beard. I mean, I'll get it like that maybe at some point, but I have a very scruffy beard. And sometimes in the postseason for the Patriots, I let that stuff go until they are ousted from postseason contention. I'll never forget, I did a Facebook Live beard shaving thing after they lost to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So with that all being said, I mean, there's so much stuff we've harped on going into this game. The Broncos' high-powered defense, the red zone, are the Broncos going to stop our run game? And they probably will put up a good effort front. Peyton versus Vrabel coaching chess match. I got to be honest with you. I completely forgot Mack Hollins I don't think I missed reading on that. I knew he was on IR, and the only way he was going to come back is if we basically got to the Super Bowl, and here we are. But I got to go with my gut here and say that my beard is going to be a little more scruffier next week because I think the Patriots are going to edge this out. I think they are going to probably walk away from this 21. Let me take that back. I think I'm looking at maybe a 28-24 game against the Broncos at Mile High. Listen, there's a lot of stuff in the statistics. There's a lot of stuff in banter that can go both ways and for the Broncos to win this thing too. But something tells me that I know we don't want to overshoot the Jarrett Stidham narrative that he's a backup quarterback and, we're going to whoop their butts. I don't think we're going to whoop their butts. I think Jarrett Stidham will probably have a good first half. And then things will take a shift because the Patriots often make good pivots in the second half. And they're going to get to him. He's a backup quarterback. They're going to get to this guy. And, it's luck of the New England. I don't know. The luck of whatever. Luck of the Irish. I don't know. The fact that we're facing a backup quarterback is unreal. But here we go. I like the Patriots. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm really trying not to get too far ahead of myself going into this matchup on Sunday. But with the way that this defense is playing, I just can't get over that. And that's really where it starts for me here. I think that this has become the identity of this Vrabel football team. On the walls of the locker room and in the team meeting rooms the entire season, they've had signs that talk about effort and finish and violence and being the type of team that you now see on the field every single time they walk out there on Sunday. And it has been a rare occurrence for this offense for the New England Patriots to have back-to-back games where they've performed the way that they have. And I mentioned a little bit earlier that this Denver Broncos defense has benefited from playing some really bad teams in the season that have kind of skewed the numbers for them. And especially over the course of the past 5-6 games, but even just looking back at that Buffalo game last week, Buffalo was able to do pretty much whatever they wanted when they wanted to. If they needed to get down the field, they were able to against this Denver Broncos defense. If they needed to get into the end zone, they were able to. So I just think for those reasons, combined with the fact that we talk about this team's identity, I think a big part of that this season that they haven't had through this playoff run is just how good they've been on the road. Only the 12th team in NFL history to go undefeated on the road. And I think when you hear from these players talking about this game this week, they sound excited to get back out there and be traveling together. And I think that goes back to the brotherhood that they've established in this locker room and how close they are and how tight knit of a team that this really is when they're all together in a situation like that. They feel like it's us against the world, that we all we got, we all we need thing that really presents itself more than ever when they're on the road together. And I think that they're relishing that opportunity. They're excited to go on the road and take down the Broncos in Mile High Stadium and to do something that the dynasty era Patriots never were able to accomplish. This is a new team. This is a new identity. And this is a team that, quite frankly, I think is probably going to put a better performance out there because they're not playing at Gillette Stadium. And I just have a hard time seeing how Jarrett Stidham and this Broncos offense is going to sustain a full 60-minute performance to keep them competitive in this game. They may have moments, especially early on. Sean Payton has a couple of wrinkles, but as we reach, like you mentioned, Tyler, later into this game, the third and the fourth quarter, when things really start to settle in, I think that's where you see this New England team really start to tighten things up on the defensive side and figure out how to move the ball and get points on the board when they need to late in this game. So I'm not going to make it as close as you. I don't think that it's going to be a huge blowout, even though this score is going to sound like it. I'm going with the Patriots 27-13 in this game. I could see them maybe, like let's say 14-13, 17-13 at half where it's kind of close. And then the defense comes out and just pitches a second half shutout or something like that, where they don't really allow a lot past that early scripted portion of the game for the Denver Broncos. But I think we both love the Patriots in this matchup going up against Jarrett Stidham and their chances to advance to Super Bowl 60 past that. All right, let's do the other game now. Who are the Patriots going to play in Super Bowl 60 between the Seahawks and the Rams?
So I'll just say it up front. I think it's going to be the Seahawks. I'm absolutely that beating they put on San Francisco. I felt awful for picking the 49ers. What the hell was the matter with me? Sorry, it's getting kind of dark in here. I didn't turn my lighting set up. I didn't think we'd be going this long. But
the sun set out here too. Yeah, I mean,
I'm like getting
conditions are changing around us.
My camera looked good like 20 minutes ago. But anyway, the Seattle Seahawks are going to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know what that means past that. Sam Darnold, I'm happy for him. But he's got a great team around him to kind of help him manage the game a lot better. I'm not necessarily calling him a game manager. I'm not trying to pull a Cam Newton, Drake Maye thing here. But I just think the Seahawks are going to edge out the Rams. It's an NFC West divisional. The fact that that divisional game in Chicago Sunday night, Caleb Williams' throw to keep them in the game against the Rams was unreal. I respect the Rams' resiliency in the snow, but I can really see the Seahawks just kind of – I knew they were good, but Seattle just scared me Saturday night. They're just a scary team, scary defense, maybe not top defense. I forget where they rank, actually, but I think that could be another tough defense.
Number 3 in total defense, number 3 in total offense. They're the only team in the league that's top 3 in both. So just a little bit of context there, because I think I'm going to follow that trend. We are walking out of here with the same Super Bowl matchup in Seattle versus the Patriots. Again, it was going to be a rematch. Either way, you kind of dice it up if we had the Patriots in that game. I think that this is where it ends for the Los Angeles Rams, going back up to Seattle. And that Seattle team, I would tend to agree with you. They look like they are ready to mount a Super Bowl run themselves.
Yeah, I'm probably going to – I see this being like 24-14, maybe even more than that. I don't know. But because I think the Rams will make it interesting in the first quarter, but I see the Seahawks really separating themselves. I thought they were top 5. I didn't know they were in the top 3 overall, but yeah, Seattle, New England, Super Bowl.
Yeah, again, depending on the metrics, you look at these, and if it's scoring defense, if it's yards per game, whatever you want to look at. But what a run that would be for Drake Maye to have to go through in his first ever postseason. The Chargers were ranked 5th, the Texans ranked 1st, the Broncos ranked 2nd, and then again, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here talking about Seattle at this point. But with Seattle ranked number 3, that is quite the run that people are going to try and talk about the path. I've already heard that start from this national perspective for the Patriots, that they get to play Jarrett Stidham in this game and all that. But from a defense perspective, who Drake Maye is responsible for overcoming on that side of the football, this has been quite the run so far. We certainly both hope that continues past this weekend and 2 weekends from now, or 3 weekends from now, because you got the Pro Bowl thrown in there. Does anybody actually watch the Pro Bowl? We'll have an episode that week, but I don't think we're talking Pro Bowl.
Maybe our filler episode that week.
Yeah, maybe more of a how we got to this point in the season, and then a preview of whatever Super Bowl game. We're, again, getting way too far ahead of ourselves here, but I think that, just in closing here, who would have possibly expected, after winning 8 games the last 2 years and a 4-13 record, and to be sitting here right now, January, 20, whatever, that the Patriots are still in the dance and they still have an opportunity with Super Bowl hopes and aspirations this year. Not looking at next year, not looking at what this could be 3 years from now, but right now, where this team is at, I think just head and shoulders further than any of us could have possibly predicted they would possibly be at this point in time.
Unreal. That's all I got. That's all. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were jumping off of me, but yeah, unreal. We're back. This is a perfect full circle moment for the episode. We are so back. Gillette Stadium hadn't looked like that in probably since 2018 when they got to their last Super Bowl. There was so much nostalgia in the air. That I talk about the 2003 season, the 2001 season, and the snow game with the tuck rule game. That was a divisional round game too, and then there was just so much parallels to me going on this past weekend. If they don't get it done, okay, that's fine. But look what's happened this year. It's incredible. So unreal.
Yeah. And I feel kind of bad. And just again, kind of closing remarks here. The expectations have shifted for this team so much that now it kind of feels like if they don't get it done this weekend, it's a sort of letdown or disappointment. And look, I think that we're way far ahead of ourselves at that point. And that's kind of why I've tried to reel things back a little bit over the course of the podcast here, because it is very easy to get ahead of yourself when you're playing a backup quarterback in the AFC Championship game. But the fact that this team is playing in the AFC Championship game is quite a feat itself. So, guys, on that note, we would like to thank you for joining us and staying. If you're still watching at this point of the video or listening, wow. I mean, we talk about trying to get back closer to that 30-minute mark every week, and we just keep getting further and further away from it. But so much to break down, so much excitement in the air if you're a New England Patriots fan. And, they're still playing football at the end of January. We'll see if that continues on into early February when we jump on for next week's Patriots Roundtable Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. If this is the first time that you're seeing us, welcome, and please do go on over to roundtable.io and check out all the stuff that we are writing over there. It's a lot of fun, a great community that we're building up of Patriots fans. Tyler, it's been an absolute pleasure. So excited that we get to come on and do another one of these for another postseason preview. Thought it was a great one. And hopefully we'll be talking about one more game when we get on next week. For Tyler Geis, I am Eddie Murata. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us here on Patriots Roundtable. We're signing off until next time.